What's up, everyone? This is Tom from YouKnowIGotSoul.com here. Getting ready to do this interview with Dawn from In Vogue, Dawn Robinson, legendary singer from In Vogue. Someone we heavily support. What's up, Montrez Jones? What's up, everyone tuning in? Thanks for coming through. Really excited about this interview with Dawn. True legend in R&B as part of In Vogue, and she branched out into her solo thing. So she'll be joining us shortly. Got some good questions for her. This is our first time interviewing her, so we're excited about it, and should be a fun interview. If you guys have anything you want to ask, feel free to chime in the comments. And looks like Dawn is here, so we'll have her join real quick. Let me send her an invite. Trying to connect real quick. Dawn, if you're joining here, if you could send us you can request to join us. If not, I'm trying to send you one here. Let me see. All right, I just sent you a request, Dawn. Subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.
Yay!
Hey, Dawn.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You're sideways.
I'm sideways.
Yeah,
So,
can you rotate it 90 degrees? There you go. There we go.
Usually they ask me to put it that way, and I'm like, you guys, I look sideways. I look upside down.
Perfect. How are you doing?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Doing good. Thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Absolutely. I'm glad to do it.
Like I said, we're just excited to celebrate your legacy. A true legend as part of In Vogue and beyond that, and your solo career. We just like to celebrate legends like yourself. So
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Legend feels old, but it's okay. It's all right. I'd rather be a legend than never have heard of you. So it's okay.
No, but you've made a legacy for yourself, in your career, and that's admirable. A lot of artists, they come and go, but we appreciate what you've left us with, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I mean, without the fans, no one knows who the heck we are. So, you know what I mean? It's like we're grateful that people know our music and vibe with us and supported us all these years. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we are so, this is our 30-year anniversary. And yeah, it just blows me away like that we've been around this long. That 30 years went by so quickly. It feels like yesterday. Like, oh my gosh, it's all happening.
I see the plaques behind you on the wall. That's pretty cool.
Oh my God, you can see. Yay, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
see that?
There's a few.
That's legendary status right there.
I didn't get any with Lucy Pearl. That's Lucy Pearl, and that's Lucy Pearl. I didn't get any with Lucy Pearl, but we have the that's In Vogue with Alicia Keys. They gave us a nice plaque for that.
Nice.
Yeah. We didn't get any awards as far as Lucy Pearl was concerned, but it was more of I don't know, it was more a project that is noteworthy that people have recognized and loved us for and given us credit. So, and it was, to me, I love In Vogue. I'm not saying anything bad about what we did because we were the best, to me, that did it. As far as the girl group phenomena was concerned, but there's something about Lucy Pearl that feels so still close to my heart. We created the look and the sound of Lucy Pearl, and I was much more rock and roll as far as my look was concerned. It was more down, I don't know, just more down to earth. Yeah. And Vogue was really kind of buttoned up in gowns and stuff like that, so it was a little more classic fashion wise. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit.
Say again? Go ahead, tell me.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for Lucy Pearl. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Sure.
But for starters, how are you holding up in this pandemic? Because a lot of people don't realize artists, it's a tough time for artists. You can't be on the stage, sharing your gift with your fans. You can't be doing the same things we're doing in the studio. How are you holding up?
Right. Well, you know what? I just feel like it was a time for the world to take a break. It was kind of like that because, we overconsume, we overpollute, we buy stuff we don't need. So now they say that the air is much cleaner, especially in LA. And in India was like the air was brown. You know what I mean? You could
Wow.
literally cut it with a knife. It was so like usually when you see a lot of pollution, you see it on the horizon in a city. You see it on
Yeah.
the skyline where the buildings are, and in India you see it right in front of your face, like right in front of your yeah. So they said that the air is much cleaner, and the oceans are much cleaner, and animals are coming closer to the cities because
Yeah.
there's no human reaction or human interaction anymore. So
Yeah.
I think it was a long needed break.
Yeah.
That's all. It was just a long needed break, and um, I wasn't upset about it. I thought it was great.
Wow.
As far as work is concerned, people are really being creative online. I don't like the whole doing shows live with no audience there.
Yeah.
It kind
Yeah.
of feels weird to me.
Yeah.
Um, I just need that energy a lot more, so I can't get used to that. But I see Maxine is doing shows, and she's doing her thing. I see a lot of people out doing shows like that.
Right.
So this was also a time and I keep telling people, if you didn't use the pandemic to create your life, meaning if you have a dream or something, a goal that you wanted, and this was the time to do it because you're not so busy. A lot of people couldn't go to work. So you're at home, and it's like, okay, you can sit there and complain about how bad things are and that you're stuck in the house, or you can use that time to exercise, get on an exercise plan,
Yeah.
figure out some kind of, research something, take a class online, research a business and how to do it. So because this too shall pass. Nothing that has happened to the planet has lasted forever.
Yeah.
We thought it was kind of the end of the world when Y2K happened in 2000. I'm like, no, I didn't panic then. Everybody was buying water and,
Yeah.
oh my God, everything's going to shut down and the computers are going to be back to zero. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
calm down, everybody. And it didn't happen. I'm like, okay, so that when we had the big earthquake in Los Angeles, we thought everything was, if you're in it, it's scary as hell. I was there.
Yeah.
But we lived through that. We lived through the earthquake in Northridge, California as well, in the Bay Area. One of the bridges collapsed on people. It wasn't the end of the world. And then you had 9/11 that happened. It was horrible, beyond bad.
Yeah.
We survived it. So it's like, this is just another situation that we have to be careful about, because I think they're putting COVID out there on purpose. They're trying to population control. That's my little conspiracy theory. But I'm just like, take this time to go within and stop listening to the news. Turn that shit off, because we can be inundated. It's good to be informed, but sometimes we're like, parents go to sleep with it. They wake up in the morning and they have the news on. I'm like, okay, no wonder you're panicking, because you hear fear all day long. That's all they're pumping into your head. They're programming us to be afraid and to not come together. So I just think, like I said yesterday, I did an interview yesterday, and I told them, I think this is, in numerology, I think 0 is 0. It's like a reset. And then number 1 is starting all over again. So 21 is it's the new. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I think we've also parents have learned to take care of their kids because they have to homeschool them.
Yep.
And they're just like, okay, first of all, I can't do this math that my kids have.
Yeah.
And it's like bringing families closer together in a sense. So we're working it out. It's going to be all right. I'm going to turn you again and straighten out my camera.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to do this. Straighten this out, because like I'm telling you, Tom, everybody keeps asking me, turn it sideways. So I was prepared and thinking that you wanted me to do that, and you're like, no.
You're fine right here.
Okay, good.
So no, but I appreciate your perspective on that. And I know, the thing was, you were just doing shows with Maxine as the Funky Divas, late before all this happened. Was it disappointing at all to have to put an end to that and pause for that now? Or, how was that whole experience?
That kind of fell apart for a different reason. It was a personal situation that happened between her and I. And I know it happened a long time ago, but it was something that I couldn't let go. And I just couldn't trust her after that. So it was personal with me. And it was also, I always say this, if you sweep something under the rug and the elephant is still in the room, it doesn't go anywhere. And if you don't deal with that elephant, it just gets bigger and bigger, and people keep walking around it and eventually going to stumble over it. So if you don't deal with it at the time, then it's still going to be there. It doesn't go away just magically. And we didn't deal with it back then. So I brought it up on a phone call with our manager, and it just blew up. But it was also that Cindy and Terry were trying to get the name Funky Divas. And
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, wait a minute. First of all, you guys don't go by Funky Divas.
Yeah.
You guys go by In Vogue, and you've been doing that for the past 20. I left in 1997. I came back to the group in what was that? In 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Right, for our 20-year anniversary, and we toured the States, and then we toured overseas abroad, and so I've been here with you guys, and you guys, so now you want the name In Vogue, and it makes no sense to me because you have never gone by Funky Divas. Except when we had the album came out, Funky Divas, that's when we went by Funky Divas.
Yep.
Well, we were all in the group at that time. It was Cindy, Terry, Maxine, and myself. No Rona. So I don't understand why they're fighting to get the name Funky Divas. And like I told Maxine, I don't want to have to pay for a trademark attorney because we bought the trademark, Maxine and I did. And
yeah,
I just thought, okay, you guys are being really vicious, like really, really nasty because you don't use the name. And they were like, yes, we do. They call us the Funky Divas. Okay, they may say that in jest. They may introduce you as En Vogue, the Funky Divas, or here they are, the Funky Divas, En Vogue, you know what I mean? But you don't use it for merchandising. You don't use the name Funky Divas. So to me, they were being vindictive. And I was like, okay, you can only use one name at a time.
Yeah.
So, right, I was like, come on, you guys are being really too much. And so I just said to hell with it. Every time I try to go back and do something with them, things fall apart. So some things are better just left undone and finished. Just let it go.
Well, let's take it to a more positive note about En Vogue because, I mean, your contributions to the group, and especially in the 90s, people don't realize En Vogue was the first one out of the gate of these R&B groups, R&B female groups we consider legendary. It was before TLC, before SWV, there was En Vogue who set the groundwork. And really, when we spoke to SWV's producer on their first album, he said we knew what En Vogue was doing. We watched what En Vogue was doing. So people were watching you guys, and you guys came out, were successful. I mean, take us back to being in that moment.
Right. Well, it was magical. I mean, I'm writing my autobiographical book right now, and I'm having to kind of relive everything and go back 30 years because this is our 30th year anniversary right now.
Yeah.
And again, it's hard to do that and remember play by play. Like, I wish I would have kept a diary.
Yeah.
I admire people that keep a diary because they're getting everything, and you look back at your life and you're like, oh my God, I did that, and we went here and we did this, and I said that, or they said that to me, or did this. So it's kind of reliving in that way and having a marker for everything that happened. But as I'm writing it, I'm kind of remembering, and I'm walking into the room for the audition the very first time and stuff like that. I just remember we recorded Who's Loving You, the a cappella part to Hold On, separate from the beat. And when we got back to the studio, maybe 5 months later, to what they call sequence the album and put everything in order. So number 1, number 2, number 3, which song's going to be number 5, 6, 7. And then they were mastering and mixing the album. They had put those two parts together. And I was like, this is a tragedy. This is a travesty, because we had been used to hearing those songs all together for like months. And here we are, they put them together. So I just thought, oh my God, this is going to be, and it was the best thing ever. Like, they knew what they were doing. Our producers knew. I'm going back in my mind, and just everything that has happened, it's like surreal for me. It's almost like I'm living it again just because I'm writing about it. And being the first on the scene is a little bit scary, but it's also like, hello, we're the first ones on the scene. We're setting the tone for what's to come. So if there's another girl group, y'all better come with it, because we're coming with our harmonies intact. We had our sound was magical. Like, nobody sounded like En Vogue, and still to this day nobody does. But everybody has their own thing. Each group has their own sound. So what I love is that they've all given us the props that we deserve, that, you know, we were the first on the scene in the 90s. Now, we had to give the Supremes, you know, that whole era in the 60s, they had their own sound. Yeah. And they were before us, so they kind of set the tone for what we were supposed to be, which we were kind of a mixture of the Supremes and ourselves. We kind of had the classic gowns, like I said, and the you know, we were just ladies. And then TLC came along, and they were like the hip hop version of a girl group. So they were like, I think they called themselves the BBD of the girl groups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had their whole hip hop look and
Yeah.
all of that. So everybody had their own thing. We had our own lane, and we weren't trying to take anyone else's. But being first was definitely, you want to be first on the scene. You don't want to be like, okay, so they're trying to be like in Vogue. You know?
Yeah.
You want to be first.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Dope. So one thing I'm really excited about for this interview is talking about your solo career, because I've always been
Sean.
really.
I'm sorry, I'm saying hi to people as I'm.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
It's okay.
I've always looked back on your solo career and been really enamored by how, you know, you were able to step out from the group and make a name for yourself, because you were a star in your own right. And what was it like stepping out away from the group? And I think it was the late '90s. You had the song with The Firm, and you were stepping out and making a name for yourself as a solo artist. What was that like?
Thank you so much, Tom. It was really scary. I mean, I'm used to looking to my left and I see two girls over there and one to my right, or one guy to my left and one guy to my right, and Lucy Pearl in that group. So it was scary, but it's like I always say, you come into this world alone. As a baby, you come through your mom, but you're still here alone, and you got to figure out life for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like leaving home for the first time when you go to college, and you just go off on your own and you figure out life for yourself. I still had a fan base. Thank God I have fans that love En Vogue and that love Lucy Pearl, so they love me by myself. And we each, individually as human beings, we all have something to say in the world. We all have something to bring, or some idea of what we want to do. And it's hard because people hold you to the group. Like they hold you, it's like the Temptations. You got to die to leave that group.
Yeah.
So people were very upset with me, but at the same time, I had to do what was right for me. So, you know, making 2 pennies per record was not the move. I was just not happy about that. And it did make sense to me that the other girls weren't just as upset as me for the same reason. Like, aren't you guys just as angry that we're making only 2 pennies a record, and our producers are making so much more, and our manager's richer than we are, and he's just a manager? We're the ones doing all the work.
Right.
So, yeah, you just got to spread your wings and get out there. Had I had the right team around me, like Beyonce did, you know, her father was a marketing guru, a marketing genius. And, you know, they were, him and Beyonce's mom, Tina, were both really smart about the group even, and putting that out, and they put their money into it and went to the right places and right people, and everything just lined up for them as a group. And then so Beyonce was definitely going to be successful on her own. And I respect that too, because they took care of the group. It wasn't about Beyonce only. It was about the entire group. Everybody won, and everybody had their share of money as well. So yeah, being on your own is hard when you've been in a group so long. But I just went back to what I knew, and I was great. I was happy that I had those great opportunities thrown at me. Like I was one of the babies in the Rugrats movie. I did what's the movie, Dr. Dolittle. I did Rocksteady for that movie. I was in the movie Life in the very beginning. Like, literally, do not if you reach for popcorn, don't look. Just reach. Don't look away. Don't look away from because you'll miss me. It's so quick in the very beginning of the movie, but I was so grateful to be a part of that. It was a great experience. And I don't know, it's just going back to what you know. You have to figure it out for yourself. So I had some really, really great opportunities and great situations that I was part of, you know.
It's interesting you mentioned Beyonce, because we've often said we felt like you were set up to be Beyonce before there was a Beyonce. The stage was set.
Wow.
You were going to be Beyonce.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
you kind of made it clear on some of the issues you faced. Like, Beyonce had more of an advantage in certain areas, but did you feel like superstardom was gonna happen as a solo artist? I mean, not to take anything away from what you've accomplished.
Right, I understand. Sure.
You know, but it just seemed like the stage was set for you to be that superstar as a solo artist.
It was set to a certain point, but you know, you got powers that be, or think they be, within the industry that would shut things down for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had I was offered a solo deal within, you know, the contract for In Vogue, just like Terry was. And Terry did her solo album first, and then I did mine. And I think it was just now that I look back and I understand, as I'm writing my book again, I'm starting to understand things more and exactly what happened. And what I think happened was it was divide and conquer in the first place.
Yeah.
Our label had heard that we were going to renegotiate our contract, and in order to keep us quiet and keep us in our place, they offered Terry and I a solo album, and we took the bait. Because at that time I had a house and I was about to lose my home. So it's like, either take this deal that's on the table. Yeah. And I regret that to a certain point, but everything is a lesson in life. I don't look at stuff and say, oh my God, I regret doing that, because I don't. I figured it out later. But I also followed what Terry was doing too. And I'm like, okay, if she's in the studio, and this was maybe she was getting ready to release the album by the time the label came to me. So she had already recorded maybe 8 months, 6 months, and then she was out starting her promo tour when they came to me and asked me to do an album. So it was a while before I decided that I wanted to do the solo album that was offered to me. And it was a pretty penny. It was like $250,000. Hell yeah, I'm taking that money. I can pay my house off. Like, I can do some stuff. And but it was, the other girls they were pissed off, to put it lightly. And then Terry and the other two came to me with the label and said, okay, there's no hidden agendas here. Everybody's got to be in the In Vogue situation. We're going back to do an In Vogue album. And I said, to hell you will. Like, you guys, you offered me a solo album just like you offered Terry one. You promoted her album. We got behind her album. We supported her, Cindy and Maxine and I. Went to see Terry at the Pantages. We supported her solo project, and we were there for her. And now you're telling me that you're not going to take my album seriously? Oh, you fucked with the wrong one.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I told them that I would do the En Vogue album, but I wanted my solo rights to be relinquished, and that I would, you know, take my solo rights and go someplace else. And that's why I was able to. I was going to sign with Dr. Dre because he's the first one who offered. Well, actually, RCA offered me a solo deal, and I turned that down to do Lucy Pearl. But after the Lucy Pearl situation ended, that was only supposed to be a one-off as well. Yeah. I was offered a deal with Dr. Dre, and he was going to sign me directly to Aftermath, but I was like, well, that's going to be a problem if I have if creatively you're my producer and you're also my label. If I have a problem with either one of those, who do I go to? Because you're both of them, so I can't. Yeah. I have no outlet.
That's crazy.
So I decided to sign with Interscope. And that was fine because Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre are really close. So it was perfect for, for Dr. Dre. And it worked out fine. It was amicable that we walked away from each other because he just wasn't ready. He was working on Eminem. He was working on King T and all these other artists. So he didn't have time to really get in the studio with me. And after a while, it was like, I've recorded like 5 songs,
Right.
Without you, by myself, with all these other producers, and not gotten in the studio with Dr. Dre at all. So that would have been a bomb project. That would have been great. But he was just too. And I think that he really didn't understand R&B, and he was a little bit afraid of it because he's used to hip hop. That's his world. You know what I mean? So rap, that's his thing, and it wasn't so much with R&B.
Right. Gotcha. But before we talk about your solo album, we talked about the Lucy Pearl album earlier. That came before your solo album. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, that was a moment for R&B. I mean, we had superstars coming together to create this project kind of out of nowhere.
Right.
And I mean, that's a timeless project. I mean, I don't know how people view it now. It might not have got the recognition it deserved in the moment or now, but that's a timeless project. If you go back and revisit it, it's super dope. So
I love it.
I mean, what do you remember being in that moment, that super group?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, when Raphael came to me, he had already spoken with my manager, and she told him no before she even told me that the opportunity existed. So I went ahead and I fired her because, well, first of all, I'm not a child. Like, you're not going to make a decision for me and not let me know that the opportunity is there. Give me a chance to mull it over. And I thought it was brilliant. Like, okay, now you're telling me that I can do another group and not have to just go solo straight ahead, because I had been in a group for so long. I was used to being sheltered by a group, and now you're telling me that an opportunity came for another group, and it was only a 1-album deal, 1 year, like, and I could parlay from my solo, from the group situation into my solo project. Like, that just made sense. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I told her, no, but you're fired. I just fired her. So there were other reasons for that too. It wasn't just that that one reason, but she was a little too overbearing. She acted like I was a brand new artist who had just gotten in the game. And I'm like, bitch, I've been around a long time. Come on, give me that respect. Come on, you know? And so we didn't see eye to eye, and I let her go. But I was like, Raphael, I've known him for a long time. I felt comfortable with him. I was safe. You know what I mean? I felt like, again, I was sheltered by another group situation. And when he said it would be, you know, Ali from Tribe Called Quest, I was like, okay, we got hip hop in there too? Like, come on, man. That's just so brilliant. I thought it was just, it was something that hadn't been done. I want to say the guy from Stone Temple Pilots, and they had come up with Revolver. I may be wrong about that, but they had come up with a group situation too, which was a rock band, and three rock icons coming together, and they had done it too, but I think they did it after us. I think so. So I just thought, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me! And I talked to the guy because I had a deal on the table with RCA, Bob Jamieson, and I called him and I said, look, there's a great situation on the table. I think it's brilliant. I love Raphael. I'm comfortable with him. I've known him for years, since we were 16 years old. We were kids growing up together, and I just feel really comfortable. And he said, well, I don't agree with that project.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So, bye-bye. Again, I had to walk away from that opportunity too. Because I just thought, you know, come on, you got Tribe Called Quest coming in. You got 2 R&B groups, 1 R&B group, but 1 that crossover pop as far as En Vogue was concerned. So I brought that sensibility to the project.
Yep.
And Raphael is so freaking talented. And then I had 2 other producers that I was working with on my solo project, Glenn and Bobby, and they call themselves Jake and the Fat Man at the time. One is Mexican, one is white, and they came in with this other. Most of the project, I got to give them credit, because most of that project was Glenn and Bobby. And so Raphael would come in and play like 12 different bass lines, just ideas that he had. They would bring out, the meters had break beats, and they would play some of the break beats, and just like Raphael would pick one of the break beats and say, okay, I like that. And then he'd start playing, and before you know it, he'd play like 12 different bass lines. And the next day we would come in and it would be the beginning of like Every Day, or La La La, or Can't Stand Your Mother, or Dance Tonight. You know what I mean? It was like that. So it was an organic project. It was really organic. It was fun. We had no idea what we were doing and where we were going. It was organic. We just went in there and started working. And I had someone, a girl named Monet, and she was helping me write a lot of the stuff. So the parts on Can't Stand Your Mother, she was writing with me. The parts on Dance Tonight. Actually, Raphael wrote my parts on Dance Tonight, funny enough. It was so fun, because there was nothing planned. I don't know what I had come from such a structured group within Vogue. You know what I mean? It was structured, and it wasn't planned, you know, but Denny and Tommy did all of our music, and the ideas for the songs were theirs. So it wasn't like we had our own things to say, except I would say for Free Your Mind, they asked us what we thought prejudice was, but we didn't get credit for that either. So I don't know, just Raphael the whole thing was really great. It was an amazing, amazing project. I'm sick that the whole thing fell apart. I wish that Raphael would have seen it differently, because the jealousy came in, the lack of communication came in, and man, when that happens in any realm, whether it's family or a relationship or on the job, if the communication breaks down, then that's when things fall apart. You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us at least that one project, because like I said, that's a timeless album you can put on now and still appreciate. So super dope.
Yes, thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you
But
so much, Tom.
you know,
Yeah.
a couple years later, you did get your solo moment, your debut album, Dawn. Now, I
Yes.
remember, I think it was a year before that, there was this FUBU compilation, and your song "Set It Off" was on there. And I remember hearing that,
Right.
and I'm like, all right, here we go. I love that song.
Yes. Oh my
And then
gosh. Thank
your
you.
album came the next year. I mean, what do you remember about creating that solo album and putting that out?
Oh my God. Well, Envious was great. The thing with the label, though, they were doing this for the first time. So if you watch Home Shopping Club or you know someone that does, QVC, Home
Yeah.
Shopping Club was like, we're getting into the music business. We would like for you to be our flagship R&B artist.
Wow.
Yeah, artist on the R&B side. You'll be the first. And I was like, woo, being the first is a little bit difficult, you know,
Yeah.
with anything. Um, so it was difficult in that sense because they didn't understand certain things marketing wise. They had hired a crew of people, but they hadn't really worked enough together to understand how each other works. So they had all, like, the A&R person had worked at a major label before, but she hadn't worked with the radio guy, the radio rep. So in order to make something work, you have to kind of do it a little bit to understand how each other works. You know what I mean? You're doing
Right.
this for the first time together, and so the radio rep didn't understand how the A&R guy worked, and the
Gotcha.
A&R, yeah, so everything didn't come together the way it should have. And they had Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the solo artist on the pop side,
Wow.
and he called me after 9/11, maybe about a week or so after, and he said, Dawn, Q Records is what the name of the label was. He said they're gonna destroy my album. I had a song called New York Girl on my record,
Hmm.
and I wanted to represent. I wanted to go on TRL and play it live because he started playing guitar, I think, at that time, and he wanted to go on and play New York Girl and then have all the women in the audience on TRL have them all in baby tees that said New York Girl and represented New York because
Yeah.
New York had just gone through the worst travesty
Yeah.
on the planet, you know, and so he just thought, you know, if I do this, it's going to be like the biggest thing ever. And they said no. Q didn't understand. Q Records didn't understand why he wanted to do that. He's like, hello,
Yeah.
you're like, come on, how like dumb do you have to be? And they didn't understand. So I said, Joey, if they don't understand your project, you know, and you're a white artist and they're a white label, I'm a black woman. Like, they're not
Yeah.
going to get it. They're really not going to get it. So I was like, I had done 106 in Park, and I was supposed to come back the following month and do TRL on MTV. And they were like, so why do you need new clothes again? Why do you have to have a new outfit for that? I was like, okay. First of all, I come from In Vogue, so we are about
Yeah.
fashion. And if you guys don't understand that, then I have a problem as well. So, and then the CEO of the label was caught embezzling money.
Oh, wow.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were done. So everything fell apart, needless to say, after that. And that's why that album didn't see the light of day. I really didn't even have, if you notice that album and go back to it, if you have it at all, I didn't do my thank yous. On the record, I had no credits, nothing on the record. It was just an album. And they put some stuff on there, but I was pissed off because they weren't understanding certain things while I was in the process of recording. So we didn't see eye to eye. So that's why, yeah. And they didn't get a lot of things that normally you're supposed to understand about having a label. If you're going to get in the business, yeah, you got somebody's life in your hands. This is what we
Yeah.
do. This is our livelihood. Music is our thing, you know, so they didn't understand a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
Wow. So that certainly provides some context to the situation. You know, we were expecting the album to be a lot bigger than it was, but it never felt like in that moment that it really got the push it deserved. But
right,
I mean, this was way before, you know, the internet was huge and message boards and social media, so we didn't really know what was going on.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
but now I understand why.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and even Tom, with the single you mentioned, "Envious." Even with that single, you know, the video was like a deal that they did with some guy who said he did videos. I forgot the director's name. It came out okay, the video itself, but it wasn't my idea of what I wanted to do for my first solo video. So there are parts like the very end of the video. I love that scene when it's going out. I have a different outfit on, and I have on actually it's John Lennon t-shirt, and it's a big crowd of people. The very beginning too, I like that scene with all the people because it's like the masses are against me. And so why is everybody so envious? Envy never dies. Yeah. So he got the concept, but the label didn't understand certain things. So it was such a small budget that I literally had to bring stuff from home.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yes. I bought that t-shirt, and then we, me and the stylist, she was so brilliant because she was like, Dawn, I can take, because it was, the t-shirt, of course, is John Lennon, and he is white, but he looked like a white piece of paper. So we had to take the t-shirt and overnight put it in, like, we had 100 tea bags in a pot of water, and we soaked it overnight. And then it gave a tint to the t-shirt, so it wasn't so white, because on camera, he's going to come out like blazing white, and you're not going to be able to see my face. So it's really weird when you have dark skin or darker skin on camera. You have to be careful of how you film it. And so the director was like, oh, that's a little bit too white. Can you do something? And we were like, no, this is a badass t-shirt, because it was John Lennon with his New York t-shirt on. And that's why I wanted it, because I like the Beatles and I love John Lennon. So, but again, I didn't have a budget. So we had to figure things out and be very creative with our budget. And that's one of the things that I love, because at the end, the t-shirt is on, and it's dope how it came out. We cut it up. She put leather sleeves on with a regular t-shirt sleeves were. She cut those off, and she put leather sleeves on, and we had to be creative because, again, the label didn't understand. Why does she need a budget again? Well, she's doing a video. She's doing a video. Like, come on, figure it out, man.
That's insane to even think about. It's wild.
It is. It is.
Dawn, I just have a couple more questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
okay,
I've been waiting for, the follow-up album from you since that one. Has there ever been a time where you were close to releasing or working on another solo album since that one?
Yes, I have been. It's funny because I try to explain to people. They're like, well, you're Dawn from In Vogue. You can do anything. Anybody will work with you for free. And I'm like, yeah, but free only goes so far. So it starts out, oh my God, I love you. Like, I love In Vogue. Terry was my favorite. I wanted to marry her. I love you guys. You know what I mean? Or Maxine was my favorite, and I love you. And so we start working on a project, and I've recorded a bunch of songs. I have a lot of stuff recorded. At one point, I put like 6 little snippets of some of that material on MySpace when MySpace just came out, when it first came out. So people have heard Healing. They've heard Jimmy Choo. I haven't recorded that one, though. But they've heard a lot of the songs that I put up at that time. And what it's about budget. Even now, radio still matters. You got to pay to play. You got to pay to have your, you got to pay for videos. You got to pay for a photo shoot, because all the photos that I have out now, everybody has seen over the years. So they're tired, they're old, and they're worn out. So it's like you do a new photo shoot, you have to pay promotion. Promotion people cost money. And everybody's like, well, aren't you rich? And I'm like, no, we made 2 pennies a record. So what's great now, Tom, is that I'm putting out my book. And my book will tell everybody exactly what happened and why things happened the way they did. And where do I go from here? So next, what I'm doing next is my book will be the catalyst for everything else. So my book will promote my record, will promote everything. You know what I mean? It's like one thing at a time. Because I get tired of telling the story. You would think after all these years, everybody would know exactly what happened, but they don't.
No.
And they're still asking. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, you guys really don't know why I left In Vogue. I wasn't trying to be a diva. I didn't want to leave. I was scared, It's like frightening to be. When you've had the impact of the success that we had, it's very scary to go out on your own. Unless you have everything behind you like Beyonce did, the marketing dollars, and she was already rich on her own, just from Lucy Pearl, from Destiny's Child. So she already had that, and she could take her time with her project, get in the studio, and really put the money behind it that was needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it was difficult because I didn't have that monetary success. We had the fame, but we didn't have the money to go with it and to be able, and you need that to be able to promote. Now it's about streaming and a whole different, you got to get on TuneCore and all these different streaming, things. And it's a world that I don't know anything about, but I'm learning now, especially, doing interviews. I have to stream. So you know, it's a process.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So early in this interview, you mentioned the 30th anniversary of En Vogue's debut, and I have to ask because this always comes up. Will there be a reunion? Now, I know you guys reunited to celebrate Sylvia Rhone last year, which was a special moment.
Yeah.
But do you ever see another reunion coming together? Maybe any new music as En Vogue? What do you see?
I won't say never. My problem is, and everybody's like, well, other groups have done it. I have a problem with Rona being there. Right now, I think she's great. She has never done anything to me. She's not a bad person at all. I don't really know her. But I do know that she needs to step back. If we're going to do a reunion at all, it needs to be just the four of us, because I think we deserve to be, Cindy and Terry have gone on and spent their time with the fans this whole time. They've still been a group. They've still been En Vogue. They've been out there and using the name that Maxine and I helped build to share with the fans. So they haven't missed a beat. But Maxine and I have not had that chance to be out there with our fans on our own. And had they not kicked me out of the group, I would have stayed in the group and still had that time with the fans, but I haven't. And I didn't have a chance to because they kicked me out, Maxine included at that time. And I'm talking about 1997. So I just think that we deserve the time with our fans for what we helped build before Rona came along. I've been trying to explain that in a way that, doesn't make me seem like I'm being messy, because, again, Rona hasn't done anything to me. She's a great person. I've been around her a few times, and she's really sweet, very funny. Her and Terry are hilarious together. But I just think that she needs to step back and let us have the time. I keep saying, she was on a show called Mickey Mouse Club. I think it was a show. And if the Mickey Mouse Club had a reunion, would Maxine, Cindy, and myself be a part of that? Me, Maxine, Cindy, and Terry, would En Vogue be a part of that? No. She would do that on her own with the Mickey Mouse Club. She was also on the Jamie Foxx show. And if they had a reunion, would we be a part of that? Cindy, Terry, Maxine, and Dawn, would we be a part of her reunion with the Jamie Foxx show? No. Yeah. So I just feel like she needs to step back and let us have this time. In 2010, that's what it was. So a 20-year anniversary in 2010. And she did exactly that. She stepped out, and we got to celebrate that whole thing with our fans, except Cindy, Terry, and Maxine took a deal that I thought was the lesser of the three deals that were on the table. And that kind of left me out of the loop. And about a month later, because they were pissed at me that I didn't sign to Rough Town, and I was like, well, if you look at the contract, you'll see why. Yeah. And about a month later, Maxine sent me an email, and she said, Dawn, you were absolutely right. This deal with Rough Town is horrible, and we'll probably have to sue to get out of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm popping my collar. Because I told you guys, like, hello, how smart. 3 heads are supposed to be smarter than 1. And I tried to tell them, don't sign. We're better than this. You got the 4 original En Vogue members together for the first time in a very long time. We can call our own shots. Like, just wait for the right deal to come along. Don't take the first deal you think is going to have a little bit of money. Yeah. And sure enough, she's like, Dawn, you were absolutely right. I'm like, You know what I mean? Like, come on. Yeah. And everybody thinks I'm the one who's like the bitch. I'm like, no, I'm the one who's smart about shit. Like, just think about it. So, and when you're more deserving, especially because we're En Vogue, like, come on, our legacy alone, I just thought we deserved more. And they didn't want to listen to me. And at first I looked like I was the one asked out. Oh, Dawn didn't sign the deal again. Dawn is being difficult again. No, Dawn is being smart, because I didn't get myself locked up in that deal. And yeah, sure enough, Maxine was like, Dawn, you were right. Come on, y'all. Like, we got to be smarter,
Wow. I'm reading these comments here. It's interesting.
I can't read
of us, a lot of people didn't even realize you were kicked out of the group, and we thought you left on your own. So, a few people chimed in about that.
Oh, my God, no. Exactly, Tom. I left. This is the thing. When someone gives you an ultimatum, that is not a choice. That is our way or the highway. And that's what it was. It was like, okay, you do it how we want, or you got to go. And I was like, well, fuck you guys. I've been here for 8 years. 8 years! Like, come on, we haven't made money yet. We're still making 2 pennies a record. Wow. We did 2 albums. Our first album, Born to Sing, under, you know, the terms were great because we had never had an album. We hadn't proved ourselves yet. So we took whatever we could get, and it was fine. But once you go platinum and you sell 1 million copies, you're supposed to go in and tear up that old contract.
Yep.
And renegotiate for new terms, and we never did that. So here we are on the second album.
Yeah.
The same terms as the first album. Are you kidding me? Like, seriously, right now, I just was like, you guys, come on. Like, we're supposed to have more money because we sold a gang of records and millions. I think by the time we started our second album, we were on 5 or 8 million sold or something crazy. And yeah, I was like, no, we have to have more money. So we got the same advance that we got on the first album, which was that was what, $40,000, I think. It was so $10,000 a piece for each girl, in the same terms for the second album. Now for the first album, it was like, oh my God, we're making $10,000. I had never had that. You know, come on, that was at one time $10,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But then here we are on the second album, and we're going in for the same terms as the first.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's a problem. There's something wrong with that whole thing, and so now we're saying and so by the time I left in '97, we had sold 28 million records.
Yeah.
And we were only making 2 pennies a record. Like, come on, it's insane. That's like highway robbery. You know, if they would have taken care of, when you take care of an artist at a label, if a label is successful and they have an artist that's doing well, you take care of that. You take care of that artist. You take care of the artist. Like, come on. You got to do that, because the artist will leave and go to another label, or if they're not happy, they're not going to be. And we still continued, even though we weren't getting the same amount of money that everyone else was getting, we still stayed in the group, and we still, you know, kept working. Now, that came out in 1992, so I didn't leave until 98, 97, 98. Yeah. That's a long time to be in a situation where okay, so I have an example that I'm putting in my book. And last little story that I have. The Beatles were 4 guys in a group, and they were together for 8 years. And Vogue were 4 girls in a group, and we were together for 8 years as well. Same amount of time, same amount of members. In the time that the Beatles were together, those 8 years, they did 21 albums, or 22 albums. In the time that we were together, those same 8 years, we did 3. They had a record label called Apple Records. We didn't do anything. We did nothing. And I kept trying to tell the girls, I remember talking to Cindy about us starting our own production company, us starting our own girl group. Let's put out a girl group of little girls like us, you know, and name them something else. But that's our girl group. Like, why can't we do the same thing Denny and Tommy did, our producers did, and put us out? And she's like, oh, that's too much work. It's too much work. Cindy talks real nasal. She talks real nasal like this. I love her. But yeah, she kept saying it was too much work. I'm like, Cindy, come on. You know, I didn't push it because I didn't understand what it took to. So I was like, well, maybe she's right. Maybe it's too much work. No, other people started production companies. You know, Devante had his own production company.
Yes.
A lot of artists had, you know, you got to do more than one thing and have more than one stream of income. And that is what I was trying to say. Let's create some dolls, En Vogue dolls. You know, every time we would do Arsenio Hall, people at that time, they were writing fan letters. You know, there was no social media, of course. So they were writing handwritten fan mail. And they would ask us, like, Maxine, what color lipstick did you wear when you guys did Arsenio Hall? Dawn, what color, you know, Cindy, what color? It was like, so why don't we come up with our own lipstick line? And Vogue. And it's like, it just didn't happen. Funky Divas. So I came up with that idea as well. And I remember, who was it? RuPaul did, because we were wearing MAC lipstick. And I was like, why don't we come up with our own lipstick with MAC and do, you know, a Cindy lipstick for MAC. A Maxine lipstick for MAC, a Dawn Max, you know, Terry, and then RuPaul came out with a lipstick for MAC, and so did Lady Gaga. They did exactly what I said. It's like, oh my God, they did Diva, the Diva line for MAC.
Wow.
You know, so my hands have been tied for so long. Now it's time. I'm just to digress a little bit because I've talked about the negative. The positive is that I was part of a group that I love. I love both groups, actually, En Vogue and Lucy Pearl. And so that gives you a name, that puts your name out there and fans can see who you are. So from that, now, in the knowledge, see, I think it's also too, Tom, I had to get over the anger that I had of being kicked out of one of the most iconic groups in the world. I helped build that group, and you guys kicked me out for doing the same exact thing that Terry did, the same exact thing. I still to this day can't even believe, like, we had the meeting and I'm looking at them because in my mind I can still see them sitting in the room like, Terry, you did a solo album too, like, what's so different? And she's like, it just is. It just is. Dawn. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, what? Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. That's how it was. So now I'm past the anger. I've healed that part of myself. And now I can talk about In Vogue without anger. I just talk about it with passion, but not anger. It's different because every other word was the F-bomb when I first got kicked out. It was like, fuck them, and fuck this, and fuck that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, it is what it is. Now I take the knowledge and the name and the love that the fans still have for In Vogue and for me, Lucy Pearl as well, and build on that. So now it's, coming out. I just started my label Stiletto Entertainment, and I'm working on my autobiographical book, like I said. I'm about to do some crowdfunding. I was really scared of it for a while, and I think I'm going to do it because as I research more and more, I see a lot of, not just celebrities, but politicians are doing it as well. Can we get a real reunion? No, we cannot. Sorry, not sorry. We've tried to do that. They don't listen. Sorry. So I'm going to move over a little because I see that there's a glare on the glass. Oh, there's a glare there too. Anyway, so I doubt the original version will ever get back together. I doubt it too.
let me say one thing, Dawn. Even though all this adversity you've shared with us, industry politics and people doubting you and not going in the right direction, despite all that, you have been able to craft, like I said, a legendary legacy. You've given us classic albums. So as R&B lovers, and I'm sure everyone would agree who's listening in right now, classic albums, timeless music, a solo album we still listen to. Wow. You're a legend. I mean, so thank you for pushing through, so fighting against all that, even though you're making 2 pennies on the albums.
You're going to make me cry.
I'm serious. Thank you.
Serious. Thank you. Thank you so much, because you get a lot of blame. Now that I'm able to explain it, like you said, there was no social media back then. So now that I'm able to explain it, it's a lot easier for people to understand. And they've also seen, through the years, they've just seen, Cindy and Terry sued Maxine, and there was a lot of mess with that. I wasn't being messy. I wasn't being catty. I was just trying to get paid. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody else around us, around our camp, they got paid. They were living in mansions and they were making the money that we were helping them make. So why is it that we were not a part of that? And I was just trying to make sure that we get our just due. That's all. Yeah. So I appreciate you saying that. Excuse me. Oh boy, what happened?
Of course.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because thank you. It's just a lot of blame over the years. I got death threats when I first left the group. I got letters, handwritten letters, like they were threatening to kill me because I broke up a group. Like, okay, is this a John Lennon situation? Like, seriously.
Wow.
So thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So seriously.
I just want to ask you one more question. This thing actually cuts off after an hour, so we got about 4 minutes left. But this question's from one of your biggest supporters, In Vogue Lover on Instagram. They reached out to us to ask you a question. They want to know, if you weren't getting into music originally, what would you have been doing for a career?
Oh man, that's I think that's Alicia. She started that page. I had to thank her because there's a page called the In Vogue Craze. It's very messy. And they're very one-sided with Cindy and Terry, and they're very mean to Maxine and I. So I thanked her. So hi, Alicia. Hi, Phonice. Hi, Leon. I would probably be a psychologist because I'm very good with people. I'm very good with, like, understanding. Like at 14, when we first met my stepdad, he was a heavy drinker. And his mom had been, she had been burned up. Her dress caught on fire, her uniform had caught on fire, and she died like a month or 2 later from pneumonia. Back then, they didn't understand how to treat burns. So she ended up dying. And when he got to us, he was very angry. He would drink like he would bring a gallon of gin on a Friday, and by Sunday morning it was gone. And none of us drank. My mother didn't drink, so it was him by himself. And I knew innately, I was 14, but I was like, I understand he has a lot of problems from that. And then his father died 9 months or 6 months. I'm sorry, he was 9 years old. His dad died 4 months after his mother in a car accident.
Wow.
How can you survive that? Like, seriously, you're 9 years old. How do you do that? And I just so I got a family counselor for us. I found a free family counselor for us to go to so he could talk to them and find out his anger and get past that and heal that. So I think I would have been a psychologist. I'm very good with empathy. You know, I understand. Wow. Yeah, I'm very empathetic.
That's crazy.
Doing that. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for such a great interview. I'm sorry I cried. I got a little bit of that, but I appreciate you understanding me. That goes a long way.
100%. Thank you so much, Dawn. Keep it going. We're excited to see what you got coming, and we're always here to support you.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I'm going to be coming with new music stuff, so music, an album, all that stuff. I mean, a book as well. Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you again for your time.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye, Tanya.